stayed. Today, I'm going to show you how to use the boiling water canning method, which is also a hot bath method. It is not pressure canning. When you're canning, you just need a big pot with a lid. It also needs to have some type of rack in the bottom to keep the jars from touching the bottom of the pan while the water is boiling. So you want to have these in the bottom of your pan so that the jars won't crack when the water is boiling. And if you don't have one that fits, you can use something else. I use this out of the bottom of my Dutch oven, throw into a different pan. You can also connect different rings from canning lids. Whatever you've got, just make sure that the jars don't hit the bottom of the pan when they're boiling. If you don't have a rack for the bottom of the canner, go ahead and use zip ties to connect lids from the canning jars. Here's a tip. Before you begin boiling the water, you need to fill the vessel with water. The water will need to be 1 to 2 inches above the jar, so go ahead and put the jars in so that you know how much water is necessary. If you have too much water, it'll overflow the pot. If you don't have enough, you won't have enough boiling water and you'll have to add cold water. Preheat the water to 140 degrees for cold packed foods and 180 degrees for hot packed foods. Put the jars in the water when it's at the right temperature. Remember, the water needs to be 1 to 2 inches above the top of the jars. If you find yourself a little bit short on water, add some hot water into the kettle. Go ahead and put the lid on. If you're using a pressure canner, do not tighten it at this time. Wait for the water to boil and then set the timer for the processing time. When canning, you need to follow a recipe to know how long to process things in the hot water boiler or the pressure canner. Two good resources is the Ball Blue Book and So Easy to Preserve. There's also websites on the USDA's website through University of Georgia and Oregon State University. They have up-to-date, good recipes to follow for canning. Oh! Stop.
In the subject box.
Oh, am I saying the same thing again?
Yeah.
Okay. In the subject box, I've also included a link where there is a chart for altitude adjustment for your recipe, depending on where you live, and also basic steps how to do water bath canning. Okay, so don't think that you need to have any special equipment for water bath canning. You can just use any type of pot you have, as long as it's 1 to 2 inches. There's room for 1 to 2 inches of boiling water and a little rack below the jars that you are canning. I usually use a stock pot, but it's full of pure syrup right now, so.
So if you have a short, if you just have a short vessel to can, you can can in short jars.
Correct. And make sure you're using the right kind of jars. We'll talk about that another time. The one-time jars are great for dehydrated foods, grains, nuts, that kind of thing, so don't throw them away. Also, make sure that you only use your lids one time. The rubber is thinner than it used to be, unless you buy specific lids that are made for multiple use. I personally don't reuse single-use lids, but I do keep them in case of emergency. So I've chosen 3 questions to answer that subscribers have sent in, and the first one is there any safe way to can meat without using a pressure canner? The answer is no. No matter what you read on the internet, don't do it. It's not safe. And the reason behind that is because if there is botulism in there, you can't see it, you can't smell it, there's no way to detect it, and it's just not something you want to mess around with. The second question, is there a safe way to can ground beef? And you can pressure can ground beef, but you're going to want to roll it into meatballs beforehand and then pressure can it. And that way the liquid is in between the meat and it'll heat up to a proper temperature and the microorganisms that need to be killed will be killed. So the third question is there a rule of thumb? When do you pressure can? When can you use water bath canning? So any meats need to be pressure canned. Almost all vegetables need to be pressure canned unless you do some type of pickling or make some type of salsa so there's enough acid added to it. So you want to really make sure if you're doing something with tomatoes or with other vegetables that you add enough acid, follow a recipe so that it's safe to water bath can. The other things that need to be pressure canned are tomatoes, Asian pears, and figs. Yes, figs are the vegetable that need to be pressure canned. All of the things can be water bath canned, and anything with enough acid, like pickles, chutneys, those you can water bath can. So when it's done processing, go ahead, turn off the heat, take off the lid, and you're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. You can slide it off the heat if that is possible for you, if it's not too heavy and if it's safe for you to do so. The 5 minutes ensures better sealing rates. After letting them sit for 5 minutes, go ahead and take them out. Make sure that you put them on an insulated, like a towel or something, because if it's granite, it could crack. Let them sit for 12 to 24 hours. Make sure you label them.